All right. It's September 30th, which means we had 5 Tuesdays in September. And that means we had 5 episodes with guests with the last name of Chin. Even I'm kind of impressed that I pulled this off by getting guests with the last name of Chin. And it wasn't like I just got 5 relatives. Like I have plenty of cousins I could have had on the podcast. But you got to admit the diversity and the interesting stories that we had. So I'm patting myself on the back a little bit. I think that was pretty impressive. And so we have one more episode with a guest named Chin, and guess who it is? Yup. It's another Curtis Chin. What are the chances? So we started the month with Curtis Chin, and we're going to end the month with Curtis S. Chin, another Curtis Chin. He does a lot of good work around the world with the Milken Institute. He was an ambassador at one point. He's just one of those interesting guys that has a lot to say about a lot of things. And so we'll touch on a bunch of different topics. But for now, sadly, the Chin for the Win month is over. But we're going to end with this episode. And who knows? Maybe we'll bring it back next year if I can find 4 or 5 more Chins. I had a few that I didn't really get any confirmation. So who knows? If they confirm that they're willing to come on, I might have to bring back some more Chins. So we'll see. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And so we'll get to our episode with Curtis S. Chin right after this. Hey everyone, welcome back. Today's guest is another Curtis Chin. It's Curtis S. Chin. Curtis is a globetrotter, business leader, board member strategist, and public affairs and policy specialist, having served in leadership and operational positions, working with private, not-for-profit, and public sectors in Asia and the U.S. He served as the 15th U.S. ambassador to the Asian Development Bank and is now a senior fellow with the Milken Institute. Hello and welcome to the show, Curtis S. Chin.
Hey, great to be with you, Curtis Chin with 2 N's.
I know.
I was going to say we're a dime a dozen, but I think I only know 7 of us. So, but so great to be with you.
I think it's fun. This is part of my Chin for the Win month, and I started with Curtis Chin, the other Curtis Chin, the author, and we're ending the month with Curtis S. Chin. So we're gonna bookend Curtis Chins for this month.
That's terrific. I don't even know about Curtis Chin, the other Curtis Chin, I call it. Hashtag the other Curtis Chin. That's him, not me. Way back when we were both beginning our careers in New York City, I want to say like the late 80s, we're so old.
Yeah.
I don't know, back then, I would get these random phone calls, and Clay, it was not me. And I think then we had, can you imagine, phone books were so old. And I looked up the other Curtis Chin, and we decided to have dinner. And he did a lot of writing then.
Yeah.
I was with a big public relations firm and did a lot of writing, and we found that maybe we're like cousins 4 generations removed.
Yeah.
Because I think both of our great grandparents came from, or great great grandparents came from a part of China we call Toisan. If you speak Mandarin, it's like more like Taishan.
Yeah.
But we've stayed in touch through the years. And this is where AI needs to get its act together. When the beginning of AI, you looked me up on ChatGPT. They combined the 2 of us, confusing even more people, or thinking this Curtis Chin is amazing. He does everything.
He's everywhere.
But great to bookend this Chin for the Win month. And I do encourage people, if they haven't yet, to read the other Curtis Chin's terrific book, Everything I Learned in a Chinese Restaurant. It's really about his life.
Absolutely.
But it's also about the history of Chinese Americans, Asian Americans, all of our ups and downs through this, past century plus.
For sure.
In the United States. So great to be with you this month.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I was getting like a DM a day when the book came out. They go, "Did you write a book?" I was like, "No, I have 2 N's." But highly recommend the book. But yeah, don't get us confused. There's not that many of us.
Indeed.
But yeah, I think anyone with the last name of Chin is pretty much from Toisan somewhere.
It's interesting because my Chinese is really terrible. But if you know Chinese characters, A lot of the Toisan chins, I would say, I call it like there's a character has like what I call the ear on the left and kind of like
Right.
east on the right, which is chin. But then you go other places. I'm based now mainly in Asia and the U.S., but I'm a lot in Singapore and Hong Kong, and they'll be like, "Oh, I'm a Chan or a Chen,"
Or a Chan,
and sometimes it's a different character, right?
okay.
So it's all about in Singapore we're Tans, Tan. But often it's the same Chinese character. But I just think that also just reflects the reality of Asian American, specifically Chinese American history. Way back when I think my great grandfather came to the U.S. in the late 1800s or so. They were really from like one of the poorer parts of China. You think about immigration, all that immigrants are going through today. But clearly, way back when, people also were leaving for opportunity. And that part of China, that southern part, it's a source of chins. Guangdong province. So indeed, if you go to some of the early Chinatowns, or you go to some of the oldest Chinatowns in the United States, they're really Toisanese. But the newer immigrants to America might be speaking more Mandarin versus Toisanese or Cantonese and all, reflecting again how the world is changing and evolving.
For sure.
When we think about Asia and America.
So I've heard you start your little Asia Minute talks with where in the world is Curtis Chin? So I'm going to ask you, where in the world is Curtis Chin right now?
You call me. I just landed back in Bangkok via Korea, via America's part of Asia Pacific, Hawaii, and right before that in Osaka, where I was blessed to be able to go to the Osaka Expo. And all that was, I don't know, in 13 days.
How many months a year do you live out of a suitcase?
No, for me, there's always a suitcase ready to go. But I think it goes back to my background also as what we call an Army brat. My father again was a career U.S. military. Is you end up moving every 3 years. And then I had a role as like an international business executive with this big public relations firm called Burson Marsteller. And I moved with them every 3 or 4 years to a lot of posts in Asia, Europe and the U.S. So I'm kind of used to being on the move, if not on the road.
So if someone said, "Where's your home?" would you have an answer?
Yeah, it'd be. I think of my, home, of course, is always where family is, or where great friends are, and where I own a house. So it's a mix of both Virginia. So I have a home in Virginia, right outside of Washington D.C., and I would say Singapore and Thailand is where I spend a lot of my time. But always wherever I am, I really feel Asian American. Probably even more than Chinese American, I feel Asian American because I grew up all over Asia and the U.S. And because my great grandfather came over to the United States, I didn't grow up in a house that like spoke Chinese. I grew up in a house that spoke English, where we love Asian food.
Right.
And as I think about it, it's probably more East Asian, a little bit of Southeast Asian food. Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Thai, Vietnamese. So very much an Asian American household. And for me, it extends into, what I like to call my career, but it's really a mishmash of things all around the world, but always a focus, hopefully, on both Asia and the United States and getting people to better understand the diversity of the Asian American experience and of Asia itself.
Yeah. So when you were a kid, was there any hint that you would be the globetrotter that you are now? Did you love traveling? Did you love just talking to people, picking up?
It's interesting. As I said, because I'm an Army brat, life, you move every 2 or 3 years. So I don't know if it's globetrotting, but it's like you move, right? That's part of life. So it's just part of life. But actually, I take your question a different way. What did I want to do as I traveled? People are like, why didn't you join the military? So, my brother joined the military. So there's always a military connection. But I really wanted to be a TV journalist. I'm so old that, when I was a little kid, I would always watch. I love news. I love public affairs. That's part of being in Washington. And for whatever reason, I love CBS News. And one day there was Connie Chung.
Yeah.
And so it was really Connie Chung who really kind of shaped what I wanted to be. But I went to a journalism school at Northwestern, where way back when, shows you how the world has changed. They're like, if you want to be a serious journalist, you do print. You don't do that TV stuff.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it was great, and it helped me master, interviewing and writing, analyzing things. But look at how the world has changed. No one really thinks just the 3 than traditional like legacy networks of ABC, CBS, NBC. You get your news through podcasts. You get your news through
Uh-huh.
social media. And so for me, it was really living in DC, not in Asia, and just watching the TV
Uh-huh.
news and living by all these people that kind of led me to this career. Somewhere along the line, I switched from being a journalist to into this whole world of corporate communications and public affairs
Yeah.
and public relations. So when you think about people that shape you through your life, some I know well, like my mentors, Harold Burson. For me, even today, I feel I'm learning from a man, Michael Milken.
Uh-huh.
But then I also, learn from people who I really don't know, although now I've met Connie Chung
Uh-huh.
and all she fought through. And she's got a
Yeah.
terrific book, an
Yeah.
autobiography, which you should read. I hope to spotlight it next year at the Milken Institute. We've launched these series of book talks. And again, part of what I do at this think tank, the Milken Institute, is focus on what I call the creative economy. This is this notion
Mm.
that, as economies in Asia develop, yes, perhaps you can be a cheaper source of manufacturing than, let's say, China. Supply chains are shifting. That's a way to develop. But at the same time, I would argue that countries can also develop if they develop rule of law, intellectual property rights, create an ecosystem
Uh,
that encourages innovation. And part of that may well be the road to whatever country you're in being the next Korea.
yeah.
K-pop,
Yeah.
K-drama,
Yeah.
K-beauty. New industries are rising that aren't simply based on, oh, we can make something cheaper than someone else. And so for me, that's one of the things I use my platform at the Milken Institute to focus on. I think it's kind of fun too because I meet amazing people.
Uh-huh.
Like I'm meeting you right now, but you meet some of these like Asian American stars you just see on TV or
Yeah.
you read their books,
Yeah.
and wow, I want to use my platform to advance some of the issues and causes and things they believe in.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny as I think back to what ended me up on that kind of track within Milken Institute, which again focuses on connecting sources of capital, big pools of capital, with
Mhm.
great opportunities, whether it's a foundation or a new hopefully cure for cancer or a new business. What brought me on that path was way back when I wanted to do a discussion panel. And we have these big convenings, people talking about important issues. I wanted to do a panel on the growing inequality that exists in Asia.
Mm.
People recognize there's growing inequality in the US,
Yeah.
but there's also growing inequality in China
Oh,
and
yeah.
places around the region. And I remember some of my colleagues were, oh, yeah, we can get you the head of private banking at this, great institution, or we'll get you this, expert economist. And I said, no, I want to think about how do I make this topic more approachable? In a way, it's serious topic, but how do you make it more fun in terms of getting people engaged? And I just read a bunch of books written by an author named Kevin Kwan,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
who, of course, his blockbuster was the first in a series of 3 books called Crazy Rich
Yeah.
Asians. And I don't know, the Curtis Chin Network or something. Someone said, "Let me connect you to Kevin," and we decided to do a one-on-one fireside chat. The movie hadn't come out yet, but the books were out,
Yeah.
and it was just an amazing discussion, which I think people are still viewing online.
Yeah.
And so that led me to getting to know some of the cast,
Yeah.
where we've had Michelle Yeoh speak, we've had Henry Golding speak. We've had the screenwriter Adele Lim speak.
Uh-huh.
And so kudos to Kevin Kwan, where that book, of course, he has, done amazing with his career, but he's also helped accelerate the careers of a bunch of other
Yeah.
actors,
Yeah.
writers, and importantly, people behind the screen,
Right.
producers that maybe would not be where they were. I mean, look at the amazing John Chu,
Yeah.
with his, Wicked 2, I think is coming out.
Yeah.
I just read his
Uh-huh.
autobiography. I think it's called Viewfighter, another
Right.
terrific book. But you read about these people's lives. What can I take away from them? Their persistence, or they're going for things despite the stereotypes and other things that Asian Americans might face. Look at all that they've done. So I've tried to bring some of that into my work at the Milken Institute, which is fun because we were also about finance. I mean, look
Yeah.
at the wealth that's being
Mhm.
created flowing from that first book, Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah.
And so it was fun this year at the Milken Institute Global Conference, which is our annual convening, usually the beginning of May in Los Angeles. We had Kevin come back, so I did a one-on-one with him again. You can Google it, look up for it on social media. But in it, we talked about his newest book, Lies and Weddings, which, the first book talked about almost like Chinese Americans, Asian Americans, the difference between Singapore and the US. This second collection of books he's doing is really about people that are like part Asian. Like your mom might be from Hong Kong, your dad might be from the UK. So
Mhm.
really half Asian, half white.
Yeah.
It's also very much a part of the Asian American experience.
Yeah.
As people think, oh, are you Asian enough? What
Uh-huh.
does that mean? That you're half,
Yeah.
right? Is that an insult? Is it not an insult? But all these things for people learning more about Asia and America and the Asian American experience, we can bring to life through storytelling. So again, that's part of my life at the Milken Institute too.
I think I think I'm a little bit younger than you, but not that much. I mean, I think we've
Yeah, you're much younger, I think. But anyway, yeah.
I graduated in the 80s. I graduated high school in the 80s. But I
Uh,
think we have kind of this unique perspective of growing up, not seeing, besides Connie Chung, and Bruce Lee, of course, but there really wasn't anyone for us growing up to see. And then I think, you mentioned Crazy Rich Asians in 2018, the movie.
yeah.
I think we're already looking back as a moment, as a kind of an inflection point. And I think your career spanning 3 decades of being in Asia and America, I think you're able to see, like you mentioned, South Korea. I don't realize that South Korea in the 80s was a much, much, much different place. And all these countries, I didn't realize that Singapore is only 60 years old. Like, I didn't even realize that. I mean, you're laughing because that's so obvious to you, but to a lot of us, like, Singapore's only 60 years old. And then just to see the changes in Singapore in the last 60 years, China in the last 30 years is
Yeah.
kind of.
I have to say, I want to go back to one point that you had mentioned when you think about, who did we admire, look up to, be inspired, as we all grew up. So true. And that's why, representation is important. You can imagine
Mm-hmm.
that could be me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Not that you can't imagine I will be the first, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I say to people, don't forget also that our mentors, our role models, to be quite frank, don't have to be Asian.
Yeah.
And the
True.
reality is that people like Harold Burson that really mentor me. Harold was, I don't know, little amazing, like, I don't know, 5'4" Jewish guy. But we laughed, we learned, hopefully from each other, but I certainly learned from him. He had, though, had an appreciation. I don't know how to say for Asians, I think he looked at us as kind of individuals, but an appreciation way back in the 70s for the opportunity that Asia would provide. He brought that firm, Burson Marsteller, I think early on, I can't remember if it was like Malaysia or Hong Kong. He was one of the first that led the way in entering Asia.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I think you're doing some great work. I mean, we talked a lot about entertainment and things like that, but you're doing things, I know, on all kinds of different topics as well.
Yeah, we did a fun one on Asian American entrepreneurs. I think at Milken Institute in LA. Maybe it was 2 years ago. I can't remember. And it ended up, I had Bing from Goldhouse, but by the heart of it, besides a terrific, investor named Dave Liu.
Yeah, we know Dave.
Was he on your show too?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I had 3 dynamic South Asian American entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs. So I was trying to think through again. Asia is so diverse.
Yeah.
Asia Pacific is so diverse.
Yeah.
What can we do to bring attention to it, but also show why it's relevant to people? I come from a communications background where I say always to even my colleagues, first understand what your goal is. Understand who your most important audience is, but also then take time to understand what is their perspective, what is their view. And you might think, oh, that's kind of a dumb question. But it's not a dumb question if you aren't lucky to have had that experience of, being part of an Asian American family or living in Asia. You just don't know. I laughed. I just streamed. Did you see the 3rd season of a series called The White Lotus?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so the 3rd season is set in Asia,
Right,
so I got to watch it. So it's set in Thailand. And I laughed because one of the actors, one of the roles, it's the mom saying to her daughter, they're in Thailand. It's like, why do you want to study Buddhism in Taiwan? And the daughter's like, oh my God, Thailand, Taiwan, so different.
Yeah.
But probably the average person doesn't think that often about Thailand and Taiwan,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so they're not stupid, right? It's just not part of your mindset, and you
Yeah.
mix up things, and then you tell them, and I say, oh, okay. But for me, what can we do to educate people that even I live mainly in Southeast Asia. I say, remember, Asia is more than China, Japan, India, right?
Right.
And that's what people think about because they're the biggest
Yeah.
economies. Now Korea,
Now
fourth
Korea.
largest
Yeah.
economy. But if you add up, all like the 10 nations of Southeast Asia, there's an association called ASEAN,
Mm-hmm.
the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, which is from tiny little countries like the Sultanate of Brunei, a
Uh-huh.
tiny oil-rich nation, to gigantic
Right.
Indonesia.
Right.
I can't remember if they have like, I don't know, 14,000 islands,
Yeah. Yeah.
But, so diverse this. But if you add up all those nations, I think I saw one, I don't know if they're the third or the fourth largest economy in the world.
Yeah.
Right. But again, each of those nations is so unique and diverse too.
Yeah.
So when you break it down, you're thinking through which ones do we
Yeah.
prioritize. And to go back to your question, if you're an investor, like if you're Netflix, you want to create new content that will draw in more subscribers.
Yeah.
I invested $1 billion plus maybe in Korea. Who is next? Is it again Thailand? Or do you think, wow, will it be Indonesia?
Mm-hmm.
Just because Indonesia itself
Yeah.
is some half the economy of Southeast
Right.
Asia. Everyone's trying to do the math and predict. But who knows,
Who
right?
knows? Yeah.
And so when you go back to the United States, the diversity of Asian America, where if you look at the data, you might say, "Wow, Asians, that famous model minority, stereotype. Wow, we're all so smart. I don't know, we're good at math. I don't know, we play the violin. I don't know, we just got it." And maybe there are a bunch of people like that, but the diversity of Asian America includes people from poor backgrounds, still struggling
Yeah.
to get ahead, and are they all hidden in a way by the spotlight just on the smartest, the wealthiest, the Chinese American entrepreneurs, the Indian American heads of major tech companies.
Yeah.
But there's a diversity of Asian America, Pacific Islander America that maybe is not captured
Yeah.
by those big stereotypes also.
Yeah.
So what do we do to change that?
Yeah.
Let's see all it is that we each can do in our own way.
Oh man, we could pick your brain all day, Curtis. You have so much knowledge, so much experience. But guess what? You have survived a difficult question. We have time for a quick lightning round.
All right. Okay. Love my lightning rounds.
Well, we actually call it the Yao, which is called Your Asian Opinion, because we don't do it real fast. So you can talk as much as you want.
Okay. Oh my God.
All right.
Okay.
What's your favorite non-work destination in Asia?
Oh wow. At first I would say I love Tokyo,
Uh-huh.
but I feel everyone says that now. So I'm going to give you a little bit, two more obscure ones. I'm a regular visitor to a beautiful, tiny, last Buddhist kingdom in the Himalayas of Bhutan.
Uh-huh.
Right. So I've been going, I don't know, a long time, 15 years. I
Yeah.
know. Once I even rented an apartment in Bhutan. But then people know that too. So, it's been in the news. So my answer to your question is the state of Sarawak in Malaysia, East
Okay.
Malaysia. I've become a regular visitor to Sarawak. The capital of that state is Kuching. And so people, in their imaginations might have heard of Borneo,
Right.
right? Oh, not in the they've heard of Borneo, but then they imagine what is Borneo. I think it might even be one of the largest islands in the world. Borneo is split between three countries. Indonesia, which is the vast majority of Borneo. This tiny, at the top of this big island, if you look at it, is Brunei, this wealthy sultanate. And then there are two states or provinces, maybe I would say, but two states in Malaysia. So east of Borneo is Sabah, and west of or east of Brunei is Sabah, west of Brunei is Sarawak.
Okay.
And it is probably one of the few states, maybe the last state in Malaysia, that's actually majority indigenous.
Okay.
So there's ethnic Malay, there's ethnic Chinese. Who were those headhunters? Who were those many, many different communities? Sarawak has many. Kuching is known as the cat city. For a reason, there are lots of cats there. but it's also a hotbed of jazz and of wildlife, orangutans,
Uh-huh.
this giant smelly flower called the rafflesia. And you're like, what does a Sarawakian look like? Of course, they're so diverse. But flipping back to something we talked about earlier, Henry Golding is probably the most famous person in the world now known from Sarawak.
Okay.
His mom, I think his tribe, his community is Iban. I think his mom is Iban. His dad, I think, was an oil worker
Huh.
from the UK. It's oil rich also. So he said, I don't know anyone from Sarawak. He said, you might know Henry
Yeah.
Golding. And I think he was born in Kuching.
Okay.
He began his career, I think, really more in Singapore. But so go to Sarawak. I think its tagline is more to discover, but just a terrific place. People are thinking where to go.
Great answer.
Right?
All right.
So I'm adding that to your bucket list, Sarawak.
Yeah. What do you order to eat there? What's your go-to dish when you get to Sarawak?
What's great is I have Sarawakian friends, so they're always ordering.
Okay.
But seafood is, of course, terrific.
You got any tips for long flights? I know you probably spent hundreds of hours on airplanes, maybe thousands of hours on airplanes. What's a tip for flying long distance?
I don't know. Everyone figures it out their own. Yeah, usually you get used to it. I actually like the privacy of a plane because I'm not one who'll be like, oh, how great I can call people and be connected through Wi-Fi. I'm like, no. I have 12 hours where no one is bothering me.
Yeah.
And I am Mr. Aisle Seat.
Yeah, okay.
Because the complicating thing in this crazy world of ours with all of our devices, I'm one of those people addicted to 10,000 steps a day or 12,000 steps, whatever it is on your little watch counter.
Yeah.
It's so tough. So I actually game the system when I'm flying, where I'm thinking through the time change on my watch. And do I walk 8,000 steps before I get on the plane or in transit?
Yeah.
But when you're stuck on a plane, for 15 hours or so, for me, one of the secrets is just get up and move.
Okay.
And to be polite to people.
Yeah.
If you're by the window, it's kind of tough.
Yeah.
But when I'm in the aisle, I'm maybe wandering the aisle a little bit but enjoy the experience. Watch some movies or go to sleep. Someone said to me, where should I go visit? Or it's, I'd love to learn more about Asia. But it's really so expensive to go, and then what if you're bringing family or kids, it's in a way for them or for many people, like a once in a lifetime or once in a long time visit. And I've said to people also, don't forget that even in your own city in the United States, there are ways and a way to go global, to try and learn about parts of Asia. Stereotype is, you got a Chinatown or you got a Koreatown or an international district. Try some different foods, speak to the owner, the wait staff, and others. And so I say sometimes going global, learning more about Asia, it's just a mindset too. Yeah, I'm very lucky to be able to fly back and forth between Asia and the US. But my family back home in Virginia, I was talking to my sister recently. It's like they're exploring all kinds of new Asian restaurants. Yeah. And it's funny, her note to me this morning, I just sent her a WhatsApp, which was like, stop WhatsApping me. I have to do this Infatuasian podcast in 2 minutes. I don't want you to interrupt my thing. She had just sent me a WhatsApp about, have you been to this Brazilian restaurant? And I said, I don't think I have, but I have been to one of those Brazilian. It's like they bring out all different kinds of meats on a skewer. And you got to be like a meataholic, like probably my family is. It's fun, kind of expensive though, I said to her. But back in Virginia, they're thinking about, taking a visit to a Brazilian restaurant. And I would say to anyone listening, you are Asian or non-Asian, let's say you're Asian, explore an Asian cuisine that you don't normally explore. Asia is a diversity of foods. And so for a while, I did this 1 minute little video. I launched a YouTube channel, but it came too much work. But it was like, I wanted Americans in particular, maybe Asians, but Americans, at least take 1 minute to learn a bit more about Asia. Right. And my buddy, Jose Calazo, who's like an Asia watcher, he's my video editor. So we'd make these little 1 minute spots. And the more popular ones are like always about food. Like we did one on street food in Vietnam. We did one on noodles in Koreatown or somewhere. You can still watch that. So that was like Asia Minute with Curtis Chin. But again, take a minute to try and listen or eat or learn something new. And so for me, food is a connector.
Sure.
And you can use food as a connector even by staying, in your neighborhood, in your home, versus saying, "Oh, I got to plan a big trip to Asia." Go to your local like H Mart
Right. Right.
or your local Asian grocery store
Yeah.
and explore something
Yeah.
to open your eyes to how people, eat. They buy things, they cook things that maybe you haven't tried that you might love.
Yeah. And then we end with our signature question, which is, who's your infatuation? Infatuation is any Asian that you admire, could be living or deceased, someone you know or someone you admire from afar. So Curtis S. Chin, who is your infatuation?
I thought I should say Connie Chung, but I already mentioned her. And I met her now. So I'm going to say a random one, playing to my social media audience. Maybe I should ask you a quiz. Who just threw out yesterday the ceremony opening pitch of the LA Dodgers versus the Cincinnati Reds?
Is it V himself?
You are my man. So it's kind of weird to say I'm infatuated with Kim Tae-young or V or BTS.
No, that was a great pitch.
It wasn't amazing. What pressure? Oh my God. But so Kim Tae-hyun, it's funny because I do a lot of stuff, K-pop, K-drama, and I really am so old that I'll mention someone and my staff will be, "Oh my God, that's an oldie." I'm like, really? They're only 36. That's so old.
Yeah.
But over time, through my work with K-pop, with back and forth to Korea, I try and be positive on social media, and I still love Twitter or X, because I deal with a lot of journalists. They love X or Twitter, but I'm always trying to promote something positive thinking, and I'd say actually I don't get such like big streams of terrible content. But I'm not I'm not outraged by terrible content. So to the degree I can, I always try and promote a positive message. And one that I quote quite often is this message from Kim Tae-hyung, or V, or BTS's V. And he says, "Don't be trapped in someone else's dream." And I say that because people said, "Oh, I want to do what you did," or "I like your career." Great that we can all motivate or inspire someone. And again, not to play off a stereotype about Asian Americans, but yeah, you don't have to be just an engineer or a mathematician or a doctor or lawyer. You can be in government, go and try and be an ambassador if you can, or you can, do whatever. So don't be trapped in someone else's dream. But that's a tough thing to accomplish too. If that dream is like your parents' dream, I feel an obligation to be in that dream.
Right.
So each of us will find our own way forward. So there are a couple quotes I always throw out there from Kim Tae-hyung. But for me, we each can inspire each other. And, just opening in Washington, D.C. is the Milken Center for Advancing the American Dream. So I just want to, like the preview, we're spotlighting amazing, some people you're so famous you'll know of. Others that we've talked about, like up on the wall, there's a great panel on Dave Liu, this great equity investor. There's a little panel on Yup Kim, chief investment officer out of Texas. So there's just different things, but this is whole notion, and bringing it full circle back to you asked what I'm doing with the Milken Institute, to this notion of the American dream. Milken Institute is saying that or asking maybe, is it tougher and tougher to achieve that American dream, with the dream being a better life for you or your family? It's not always, I want to be the richest person in the room. That's not most people's dreams. If they want to make a little bit more money, it's a better life for them and their family. So is that really tougher to achieve now? And if so, what can we do to address the difficulties people have in getting access to capital, to funding, to create that small business, to pay for school? What can we do to address issues related to access to healthcare? We all know our healthcare system is like crazy. It's certainly not a world leader in terms of access, even if we've got some of the best doctors and treatments in the world. So unequal. And so how do we address those things to help people have what we say is a more meaningful life? That life isn't just a struggle to survive. So for so many people, that's what dominates. I got to keep my job. I got to do my job. Got to get the kids to school. Whatever it is, you got to do. But also, how do we give people the chance to do even more, to build a more meaningful life for them? and their families.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't be trapped in someone else's dream.
Yeah.
And maybe even better, we're all like, now that you and I are old, and I'm telling you you're old, that we also want to lift others up.
Mhm.
So that's how I use my platform at the Milken Institute. Other things, I'm on some boards, nonprofit, for profits. How we lift up and help others. That's part of, I think, what each of us need to think through, each in our own way.
Yeah.
And all.
Wow. I did not see that pick coming.
But you knew the answer.
Yeah.
I'm so impressed.
You got me. No, I was impressed with his pitch. I was like, well, and I'm a Giants fan, so I don't really like the Dodgers, but I was impressed.
I think for a shining moment, no one was talking about Ohtani.
Yeah.
But I posted online. There's a great photo of Ohtani and V together.
That's cool.
But how cool is that? And then I'm going to end with one last piece of propaganda. There's one thing that the Milken Institute we do, and it's really Michael Milken. Milken is amazing. He is probably one of the most prominent survivors of prostate cancer. And one thing the Prostate Cancer Foundation, which I think he's the chair. I don't know. He's sort of the chair of the Milken Institute. They do is they partner with Major League Baseball. I think it's called the Home Run Challenge. So it's at opening games. If someone hits a home run, money is going to prostate cancer research. So just a small example of the importance of partnership.
Yeah.
Who would have thought partnering, finding addressing prostate cancer, finding a cure for prostate cancer to baseball. But you think about it, all makes sense in terms of communications. Maybe men and people didn't want to talk about prostate cancer, but wow, all these cool baseball players, they're talking about
Put the name out there.
right?
Yeah.
So use our platforms to educate and motivate people for action. So thank you again for inviting me
my pleasure.
on your show. Maybe one year you'll find 30 Curtis Chins, and you can do a Curtis Chin a day.
Oh, wow.
But what an honor to be bookending the other Curtis Chin, this particular Curtis Chin, to convey a message of hopefully hope and joy a little bit to people.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. No, this is great. If everyone out there, if you want to find out more about Curtis, you can find him at Asia Minutes on social media. Also, the videos are still there on YouTube if you want to watch Asia Minute videos on YouTube. And there's lots of talks moderated by Curtis at the milkeninstitute.org. They're linked in Curtis's Instagram bio as well. So you can find some of those talks. All these celebrities. I can't believe you met all these people. This is pretty great. I do say that one of my highlights with this podcast was interviewing Connie Chung. We got to talk to her when her book came out too. So that she's the GOAT. I mean, she's definitely especially for our generation. Yeah. And everyone out there, as I always mention, you can write to us at infatuasianpodcast@gmail.com and follow us on Instagram at infatuasianpodcast. We'll put all of Curtis's details and all of my Curtis's details on the show notes. Curtis S. Chin, thank you so much for coming on with us.
Thank you. It's been great to be with you. One last trivia. The other Curtis Chin and this Curtis Chin, we're both named after Tony Curtis.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Bye for now.
Thanks.
Take care. Bye, everyone.